The silver ship moved through space like a knife through water. Ambassador Velthar stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back. His purple skin glowed softly in the dim light. He had done this job for 300 years. First contact with new species was routine now. "Sir, we are approaching the quarantine zone," his pilot said. The young officer's voice shook slightly. Everyone knew the stories about this sector. Ships went in, but never came back. The Galactic Council had marked it as dangerous space. Velthar waved one hand. "Fear makes you weak," he said. "These humans are just another primitive race. They probably have a few metal ships and think they rule space." The Quindari Empire had sent their best diplomat for this mission. Velthar had brought 17 species into the Galactic Council. He knew how to handle newcomers. First, they would be scared, then angry. Finally, they would beg to join the council. "Sensors are picking up something strange," the tactical officer said. Her scales changed color from blue to orange, showing her worry. "The readings don't make sense." "What do you mean?" Velthar moved to the sensor station. The screen showed dots of light scattered across space. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. "These can't all be ships," Velthar said. His confidence started to crack. "Check the sensors again." The tactical officer ran the scan 3 times. Each time showed the same result. Thousands of ships hung in space like stars in the night sky. They were arranged in perfect lines and squares. The formation stretched farther than their sensors could reach. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're getting a signal." A new voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, the language used by all council species. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Hyunwoo of the United Earth Ship Determination. Please state your intentions." Velthar blinked all 4 eyes. The voice was calm and professional. No fear, no anger. Just simple questions asked with quiet authority. "This is Ambassador Velthar of the Galactic Council," he replied. "I come in peace to make first contact with your species." There was a pause. Then Captain Hyunwoo spoke again. "We have been expecting you, Ambassador. We welcome peaceful contact with the Galactic Council. Would you prefer to meet on your ship or ours?" Velthar felt his heart skip a beat. They had been expecting him. How was that possible? The Council's plans were secret. "Your ship will be acceptable," Velthar said, trying to sound calm. "We will send coordinates for docking. Please follow the beacon we are transmitting." The signal cut off. Velthar stared at the communication panel. In 300 years of first contact, no species had ever been this prepared. Most were still learning to build rockets when the Council found them. "Sir," the pilot said, "I'm following their beacon, but something is wrong with our readings." "What now?" Velthar asked. "Their escort ship is showing on sensors. It's bigger than our heavy cruisers." Velthar looked at the main screen. A ship was approaching them. It moved with smooth grace through space. Its hull was dark gray with lights running along its sides. Weapon ports dotted its surface like scales on a fish. As it got closer, Velthar realized the pilot was right. The human ship was massive. Their escort vessel was twice the size of his diplomatic cruiser. Its engines glowed with blue fire that left trails in space. "What kind of species builds ships this large?" the tactical officer whispered. The human ship moved alongside them with perfect precision. A docking tube extended from its side and connected to their airlock. Everything happened smoothly, like they had done this 1,000 times before. "Ambassador," Captain Hyunwoo's voice returned, "welcome aboard the UES Determination. I am waiting in docking bay 7 to greet you personally." Velthar straightened his formal robes. He had to maintain dignity, even if these humans impressed him. He walked to the airlock with 2 guards following behind. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Clean air flowed in, carrying strange scents. Velthar stepped through the docking tube and into the human ship. The bay was huge. It could hold 6 ships the size of his cruiser. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow with inner light. Humans in neat uniforms moved around the bay, doing their work with quiet efficiency. Captain Hyunwoo waited in the center of the bay. He was tall for his species, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. He wore a blue uniform with silver marks on his shoulders. When he saw Velthar, he bowed slightly in the traditional council greeting. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador," Hyunwoo said in perfect galactic standard. "I hope your journey was comfortable." Velthar returned the bow, though his hands shook slightly. "Thank you for your welcome, Captain. Your ship is very impressive." Hyunwoo smiled. "This is just a destroyer, one of our smaller vessels. Would you like a tour before we begin formal discussions?" A destroyer? This massive ship was one of their smaller ones? Velthar felt dizzy. What did their large ships look like? "That would be most educational," Velthar managed to say. As they walked through the corridors, Velthar saw things that made no sense. The walls showed star maps of sectors the Council had barely explored. Crew members worked at control panels that looked more advanced than anything on Council worlds. The ship hummed with power that made his scales tingle. "How long has your species been traveling in space?" Velthar asked, trying to sound casual. "About 200 of your standard years," Hyunwoo replied. "We started slow, but we learned quickly. 200 years. Most species took 1,000 years to build ships like this. The humans had done it in 2 centuries. Velthar began to wonder if coming here had been a mistake. These humans were not the primitive species he had expected. They were something else entirely, something that might change everything the Council thought they knew about the galaxy. Captain Hyunwoo led Ambassador Velthar to a large room filled with soft light. Round tables were arranged in a circle with comfortable chairs around each one. The wall showed moving pictures of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds spinning around a beautiful world. "Please, sit wherever you feel comfortable," Hyunwoo said. He gestured to the chairs with an easy smile. Velthar chose a chair that adjusted itself to fit his body perfectly. The table rose to the right height without being asked. Even their furniture was more advanced than most Council technology. A human woman approached their table. She had short black hair and wore a blue uniform like the captain's. Her name tag read, "Communications Officer Tae-ho." "Ambassador," she said, bowing in the Council style, "I have prepared the formal greeting protocols as requested by your government." She placed a small device on the table. It projected words in the air, written in perfect Council script. Every symbol was correct. Every phrase followed the ancient diplomatic rules that took most species decades to learn. "You know our protocols?" Velthar asked, surprised. Tae-ho smiled. "We have been listening to Council broadcasts for 60 years. We wanted to be ready when contact finally happened." "Listening to our broadcasts?" Velthar's voice rose higher. "From this distance? That should be impossible." "We had good teachers," Tae-ho said simply. She touched the device again. New words appeared in the air, this time in 17 different Council languages. "We know that different species prefer different ways of speaking." Velthar stared at the perfect translations. His own people had machines that could barely translate 3 languages correctly. Captain Hyunwoo leaned forward. "We hope this shows our respect for Council traditions. We want to begin our relationship properly." A door opened and another human entered. This one was older with gray hair and kind eyes. She carried a metal box in her hands. "Ambassador," Captain Hyunwoo said, "this is Science Officer Min-jung. She has prepared gifts for you as is customary for first meetings." Min-jung placed the box on the table and opened it carefully. Inside were items that made Velthar gasp. There were crystals that glowed with inner fire, metal sculptures that seemed to move on their own, and books bound in materials he had never seen. "These represent human culture," Min-jung said. "Art, science, literature, and music from our world." She lifted one crystal and held it toward the light. "This contains our mathematical discoveries. We thought your scientists might find them interesting." Velthar picked up one of the books. The pages were thin as whispers but felt strong as steel. The writing was in human symbols, but somehow he could understand the meaning. Stories of heroes and adventures, of love and loss, of dreams reaching toward distant stars. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "I can read your language." "The books are printed with translation nanites," Min-jung explained. "They adjust to the reader's mind. We developed them to help different species communicate. Translation nanites. The Council had been trying to invent those for centuries. These humans spoke of them like they were nothing special. We have also prepared technical information," Min-jung continued. She pulled out a datapad and touched its surface. Complex diagrams filled the air above the table. Our contributions to physics, chemistry, biology, and engineering. Velthar studied the floating diagrams. Equations that solved problems council scientists still struggled with. Designs for engines that could cross space faster than anything he knew. Medical techniques that could heal injuries his people thought were impossible to fix. Your species developed all of this independently? Velthar asked. We had some help from friends, Captain Hyunwoo said. Other species taught us things. We taught them things. Knowledge grows when it is shared. What other species? Velthar leaned forward. The Council keeps careful records of all spacefaring civilizations. Taeho and Min Jung exchanged looks. Captain Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. Perhaps that conversation should wait, the captain said gently. We don't want to overwhelm you on our first meeting. Velthar felt cold fear crawl up his spine. What did that mean? How many species did humans know that the Council had never heard of? Let me show you something else, Min Jung said. She touched her datapad again. The room filled with music, beautiful sounds that made Velthar's hearts beat faster. Voices singing in harmony, instruments playing melodies that spoke directly to the soul. This is from our world, she said. Music from every nation and culture on Earth. We thought you might enjoy hearing how diverse we are. The music changed as she spoke. Sometimes it was soft and gentle like wind through trees. Sometimes it was powerful and strong, like storms over mountains. Each song was different, but they all carried the same feeling. Hope, joy, and wonder at the beauty of life. Your people made all of this? Velthar asked. 8 billion humans live on Earth, Captain Hyunwoo said. Each one is different. Each one has their own thoughts and dreams. Together we create things that none of us could make alone. 8 billion. Velthar's home planet had only 2 million people. Most council worlds had populations in the millions. These humans had billions of minds working together. We hope these gifts show our peaceful intentions, Min Jung said. We want to be friends with the council and all member species. Velthar looked at the treasures spread across the table. Art that touched his heart. Science that amazed his mind. Music that lifted his spirit. These were not the gifts of primitives begging for help. These were offerings from equals who wanted to share their knowledge. I accept these gifts with gratitude, Velthar said formally. They will be treasured by my people. But inside his mind was spinning. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. These humans were not a new species stumbling into space. They were something far more dangerous. They were ready. The next morning, Ambassador Velthar received a formal invitation that made his hands shake. It was written on real paper, with elegant human writing that flowed like art across the page. Admiral Yoonji requests the honor of your presence for a review of the Earth Defense Fleet. Captain Hyunwoo read aloud. She hopes this will demonstrate our commitment to protecting peaceful civilizations. Velthar tried to keep his voice steady. A fleet review would be educational. We appreciate the gesture of trust. But inside he was terrified. The single destroyer he had seen was already larger than most Council warships. How big was their actual fleet? An hour later, Velthar found himself in a small shuttle with Commander Jin Ho, a quiet human with steady hands and calm eyes. The shuttle was sleek and fast, moving through space like a silver fish through water. First time seeing a human fleet? Jin Ho asked as they flew away from the Determination. Yes, Velthar replied. How many ships should I expect to see? Jin Ho smiled. Oh, just the third fleet today. Admiral Unji didn't want to overwhelm you. Just the third fleet. That meant there were at least 2 others, probably more. Velthar felt his stomach twist with worry. Then he saw them. The shuttle crested a small asteroid and space opened up before them. Velthar pressed his face against the window and stared in shock. Ships. Thousands and thousands of ships. They stretched across space in perfect formations. Massive vessels that looked like floating cities. Medium ships that moved in precise groups. Small fighters that flew together like flocks of birds. Those big ones are dreadnoughts, Jin Ho said, pointing to ships that were kilometers long. Each one carries enough firepower to protect a whole star system. Velthar counted 12 dreadnoughts in the first formation alone. Each one was bigger than the Council's greatest battleship. Their dark hulls were covered with weapon ports and shield generators that glowed with blue energy. And those? Velthar pointed to sleek ships that looked like flying arrows. Cruisers, Jin Ho replied. Fast and flexible. Good for patrol work and escort missions. There were hundreds of cruisers arranged in neat squares. They moved through space like dancers, changing positions with smooth precision. Their engines left trails of light that painted patterns in the darkness. "The carriers are my favorite," Jinho said. He guided the shuttle toward massive ships that looked like hollow rectangles. Each one holds 1,000 fighters. Velthar watched small ships pour out of the carriers like water from a broken dam. They formed up in perfect groups, flew complex patterns around the larger ships, then returned to their homes with military precision. "How many fighters does your fleet have?" Velthar asked weakly. "In this formation? About 50,000, Jinho said casually. Plus support craft, transports, repair ships, and mobile shipyards. 50,000 fighters. The entire Council defense fleet had maybe 2,000 combat ships total. They flew past construction vessels that were building new ships right there in space. Velthar watched robots and humans working together, assembling hull plates and installing weapon systems. The construction ships were themselves larger than most planets' entire navies. "How long did it take to build all this?" Velthar asked. "The Third Fleet?" "About 8 years, Jinho replied. "We've gotten pretty good at mass production." 8 years. The Council's last major warship had taken 30 years to build, and they had celebrated it as a miracle of engineering. A new voice came through the shuttle's communication system. "Commander Jinho, this is Engineer Hai Jin aboard the construction ship Forge. How is our guest enjoying the tour?" "He seems impressed," Jinho replied with a grin. "Excellent. Ambassador, you're seeing some of our newest vessels. The older ships from 15 years ago might look a bit outdated compared to these beauties." Velthar nearly fainted. Their outdated ships would be considered miracles by Council standards. What did that make their new ones? "Don't worry," Hyejin continued cheerfully. "We keep the old ones in good repair. Waste not, want not, as we say." They flew through formations of support ships, hospital vessels that could heal thousands of wounded, supply ships loaded with food and weapons, mobile command centers that coordinated the entire fleet. Each type was present in overwhelming numbers. "How many people serve in this fleet?" Velthar asked. "About 2 million, Jinho said, plus another million in support roles on nearby stations and planets. 3 million people. That was more than lived on most Council worlds. And this was just one of their fleets." Navigation Officer Dong Hyun's voice crackled through the speakers. "We're approaching the outer patrol routes now. Sorry for the traffic. We've got supply convoys coming in from the 7th and 9th systems." 7th and 9th systems. How many star systems did humans control? Velthar looked out the window and saw more ships approaching from different directions. Long lines of cargo vessels escorted by warships. The convoys stretched beyond the horizon, bringing supplies from across human space. "How large is your territory?" Velthar asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "Well," Jinho said thoughtfully, "we have colonies in about 40 systems now, plus research stations, mining operations, and defense outposts in maybe 100 more. 140 systems. The entire Galactic Council controlled about 200 systems total, and that was divided among 17 different species." They flew back toward the center of the fleet, passing groups of ships that Jinho identified as patrol squadrons, reconnaissance units, and rapid response forces. Each group was larger than most Council fleets. "There's Admiral Yunji's flagship," Jinho said, pointing to a ship that dwarfed everything around it. The massive vessel looked like a floating fortress, bristling with weapons and covered in communication arrays. "She's waiting to meet you personally," Jinho continued. "Fair warning, though. She's excited to talk about fleet tactics. She doesn't get many visitors who understand military strategy." Velthar nodded weakly. He was beginning to understand that this fleet review was not just a show of force. It was a gentle warning. The humans were not asking to join the Galactic Council. They were announcing that they had already surpassed it. Back on his own ship, Ambassador Velthar sat in his private quarters staring at the data his tactical officer had collected. The numbers made no sense. They had to be wrong. "Run the analysis again," he ordered. His tactical officer, a young Quindari named Kextal, worked at her station with shaking hands. Her scales had turned pale gray with stress. "Sir," she said quietly, "I've run it 6 times. The results are always the same." She put the data on the main screen. Charts and graphs filled the air, showing energy readings, weapon signatures, and fleet formations. "Their smallest patrol groups have more firepower than our sector defense fleets," Kextal said. "Their destroyers, the ships they call small, could defeat our heavy battlecruisers in single combat." Velthar studied the numbers. Each human ship radiated energy levels that should have been impossible. Their weapons could strike targets across entire star systems. Their shields could absorb attacks that would destroy Council vessels. What about their large ships? Velthar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Sir, Kextal whispered, their dreadnoughts show power readings equivalent to small moons. If they wanted to, they could sterilize entire planets from orbit. Velthar felt his heart skip. The Galactic Council's most powerful weapons could barely crack a planet's surface. These humans carried moon-killing weapons on their ordinary warships. A chime indicated an incoming message. The communication screen lit up with the image of a human male in a dark blue uniform. Ambassador Velthar, the human said with a polite bow. I am Commander Jae-sung, Chief Science Advisor to the Earth Defense Command. I understand you have questions about our capabilities. Commander, Velthar replied, trying to sound calm. Your fleet is very impressive. We had not expected such advanced technology from a species so new to space travel. Jae-sung smiled. We are fast learners. Would you like me to explain some of our recent developments? Before Velthar could answer, the screen changed to show a star map. Systems lit up in different colors. Blue for human colonies, green for allies, red for threats. This shows our current area of influence, Jae-sung said. We've had some interesting neighbors over the years. Velthar stared at the map. Human territory was enormous, stretching across regions of space the Council had barely explored. But what shocked him more were the green dots, dozens of allied species he had never heard of. You have made contact with other civilizations? Velthar asked. Oh yes, Jae-sung replied. We've been quite active in this region. We've helped several species deal with various threats. What kind of threats? Jae-sung's expression grew serious. Have you heard of the Machine Collective? Velthar's blood turned to ice. Every Council citizen knew that name. The Collective was a nightmare from the outer darkness. Sentient machines that consumed entire civilizations. They had appeared 50 years ago, destroyed 3 Council worlds, then vanished without explanation. The Collective attacked the Kepler sector about 15 years ago. Jae-sung continued. They had built moon-sized constructs and were converting planets into more machines. The screen showed combat footage that made Velthar sick. Geometric shapes the size of cities floating through space, planets being torn apart by invisible forces. Millions of beings screaming as they were transformed into mechanical components. The local species asked for our help, Jae-sung said. We were happy to assist. New footage began playing. Human fleets engaging the machine constructs in battle. Velthar watched in amazement as human ships used weapons and tactics he couldn't understand. They moved through space like hunting wolves, coordinating attacks across light years of distance. How did you defeat them? Velthar asked. The Council's best fleets couldn't even damage their smaller units. We learned their weaknesses, Jae-sung said simply. Every system has flaws if you know where to look. The footage showed machine constructs being torn apart by human weapons. Massive geometric shapes exploding into fragments of metal and crystal. The surviving machines fleeing into deep space pursued by human squadrons. The threat has been eliminated, Jae-sung concluded, though we maintain patrols in case they return. Velthar realized his mouth was hanging open. These humans had fought and defeated an enemy that had terrified the entire Council. They spoke of it like it was routine patrol duty. We've had other interesting encounters, Jae-sung continued. The star map changed again, showing different colored zones. Pirates, rogue artificial intelligences. A species of energy beings that were consuming stars for food. Each threat was marked with dates and brief descriptions. Velthar read them with growing horror. The humans had been fighting and defeating dangers the Council didn't even know existed. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A new voice came through the speakers. A human female with a warm, professional tone. Ambassador, this is Medical Officer Yu Jin. I've prepared some refreshments for you. I noticed your stress levels are elevated. A small robot rolled into Velthar's quarters carrying a tray of food and drink. The items were arranged perfectly for his species' dietary needs. How do you know what my people can safely consume? Velthar asked. We have extensive files on Council biology, Yu Jin replied. We've been preparing for this meeting for quite some time. The food was delicious, better than what he ate at home. The drink was cool and sweet, exactly what his body needed. Even their medical knowledge surpassed Council science. We've also developed compatibility treatments, Yu Jin continued. If Council species ever want to visit human worlds, we can make sure everyone stays healthy and comfortable. Velthar ate slowly, his mind reeling. The humans had planned for everything. They knew more about Council species than the Council knew about them. "Commander Jae-sung," he said, "may I ask how long your people have been aware of our existence?" "About 60 years, Jae-sung replied. "We detected your communication networks when we first developed faster-than-light sensors. 60 years. The humans had been watching and learning about the Council for longer than most Council citizens had been alive. We've been very interested in your civilization." Jae-sung continued. "Your diplomatic traditions are quite elegant. Your scientific achievements are impressive. We look forward to working together. Working together, not joining the Council as junior members. Working together as equals." Velthar finished his meal and looked at the data again. The truth was impossible to deny. These humans were not primitives seeking guidance. They were advanced beings who had been quietly protecting this entire region of space. The Galactic Council hadn't discovered a new species. They had stumbled into the territory of their new protectors. Ambassador Velthar spent 3 sleepless days staring at his final report. How could he explain this to the Galactic Council? How could he make them understand that everything had changed? On the 4th day, he received another invitation. This time it came from Fleet Admiral Sung Min, the highest military commander in human space. The message was simple. "Would you honor me with a private conversation?" Velthar accepted immediately. He needed answers, and something told him this human would provide them. The shuttle ride to Admiral Sung Min's headquarters took him through the heart of human space. Velthar pressed his face to the window and watched massive space stations floating like cities among the stars. Ships moved between them in endless streams. Cargo vessels, passenger liners, military patrols, and types of craft he couldn't identify. "First time seeing a military command center?" the pilot asked. She was a young human named Captain Wu Jin, with confident eyes and steady hands on the controls. "Nothing like this," Velthar admitted. The station they approached was enormous, larger than most planets. Its surface was covered with docking bays, weapon arrays, communication towers, and what looked like entire cities built into its structure. "Home to about 15 million people," Wu Jin said proudly. "Military personnel, civilian workers, families, researchers. It's basically a mobile world. 15 million people on a single station. The entire Galactic Council headquarters had a population of maybe 50,000. Admiral Sung Min met Velthar in a simple office that looked out over the station's main hangar bay. Through the massive windows, Velthar could see ships being built, repaired, and launched. The activity never stopped. The Admiral was older than the other humans Velthar had met. His hair was gray, his face lined with experience, but his eyes were sharp and kind. He wore a plain uniform with few decorations. "Thank you for coming," Admiral Sung Min said. He gestured to comfortable chairs arranged around a low table. "I imagine you have many questions." "I do," Velthar replied. "But first I must ask, why are you showing me all this? Why reveal your true capabilities?" Admiral Sung Min poured tea from a simple ceramic pot. The liquid was golden and smelled like flowers. "Because it's time," he said simply. "We've been working in shadows long enough." A door opened and another human entered. She was middle-aged with intelligent eyes and carried herself with quiet authority. "This is Director Bo-Ram," Admiral Sung Min said. "She manages our relationships with other species." Director Bo-Ram placed a datapad on the table and touched its surface. Files appeared in the air. Detailed reports with pictures, charts, and official documents. "These are our files on every Galactic Council species," she said. "Political structures, technological capabilities, cultural preferences, current challenges." Velthar stared at the floating documents. There were reports on his own people that contained information he was sure the Quindari government had never shared with outsiders. "The Vextar Confederacy is dealing with food shortages," Bo-Ram said, pointing to one file. "We've been quietly supplying them with agricultural technology." Another file opened. "The Krill Empire is struggling with energy production. We've shared some improved reactor designs through intermediaries." File after file revealed the same pattern. Every council species had problems, and humans had been helping solve them without taking credit. "Why?" Velthar asked. "Why help us in secret?" Admiral Sung Min sipped his tea thoughtfully. "Because strong neighbors make for a peaceful galaxy. When your people prosper, everyone benefits." "You've been protecting us," Velthar realized. "All this time we thought we were independent. But you've been watching over us like parents caring for children. Not parents and children, Director Boram said gently. More like older siblings helping younger ones learn to walk. She touched the datapad again. New files appeared. Incident reports, threat assessments, military actions. The pirate fleets that used to raid Council shipping, she said. We eliminated them 3 years ago. The plague that nearly destroyed the Zixtar homeworld. We provided the cure through anonymous medical shipments. The asteroid that was heading for the Kellen system. We deflected it with gravity generators, then made it look like a natural event. Each revelation hit Velthar like a physical blow. Every disaster that had been mysteriously avoided. Every crisis that had been unexpectedly solved. It had been the humans working behind the scenes. The Council never knew, he whispered. The Council didn't need to know, Admiral Shungmin said. You had enough problems without worrying about threats you couldn't handle anyway. Director Boram closed the files and looked at Velthar directly. But now things are changing. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous. Threats are emerging that require open cooperation instead of secret assistance. What kind of threats? Admiral Sungmin's expression grew serious. There are things in the deep dark between galaxies. Ancient intelligences that view biological life as a mistake to be corrected. They're starting to notice our local galactic cluster. The Machine Collective was just a scouting force, Director Boram added. A tiny probe from something much larger. The real threat is still coming. Velthar felt cold fear settle in his stomach. How long do we have? Maybe 50 years, Admiral Sungmin said. Maybe less. We need to be ready. Captain Wu Jin appeared in the doorway. Admiral, the Council representatives are ready for transport. Council representatives? Velthar asked in confusion. Admiral Sungmin smiled. Did you think you were the only one we invited? We've been talking quietly with every species in the Council for months. Today they all get to see what you've seen. Through the office windows, Velthar could see shuttles arriving from every direction. Each one carried the flag of a different Council species. Diplomats and officials were gathering for the most important meeting in galactic history. We're formally requesting to join the Galactic Council, Director Boram said, not as new members seeking guidance, but as experienced neighbors offering partnership. You want us to accept you? Velthar asked. We want you to accept our help, Admiral Sungmin corrected. The galaxy needs to stand together for what's coming. Humans can't do it alone, and neither can the Council. Captain Wu Jin approached their table and handed Velthar a small device. This is a quantum communicator, she said. It will let you talk instantly with our command centers from anywhere in the galaxy. In case you need help, Admiral Shungmin explained. Or in case you want to help us. Velthar held the device carefully. It was warm to the touch and hummed with contained energy. A direct line to the most powerful military force in the galaxy, offered freely to the Council. What happens now? He asked. Now we work together, Director Boram said. The Council brings diplomatic wisdom and cultural knowledge. We bring military strength and advanced technology. Together we prepare for whatever comes from the dark. Admiral Shungmin stood and walked to the window. Outside, the great hangar bay was filled with ships from dozens of species. Human vessels worked alongside Council cruisers, sharing supplies and coordinating patrols. This is what the future looks like, the Admiral said. Not conquest or domination, but cooperation. Not one species ruling others, but all species working as equals. Velthar joined him at the window. The sight before him was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The galaxy was about to change forever. Will you help us make that future real? Admiral Shungmin asked. Velthar looked at the quantum communicator in his hands, then at the mixed fleet preparing to patrol their shared space. The choice was simple. Yes, he said. We will. Outside, ships launched into the void, carrying hope for a new age among the stars.